Hey guys, you are here in Unit 9, Lesson 2. These are the notes for Unit 9, Lesson 2. And we are going to go through two essential questions. The first one is, how is energy transferred through an ecosystem? So we're going to be describing how energy flows through an ecosystem, and nutrients and food chains, food webs, and energy pyramids. So the first thing you need to know is that your sunlight is your main source of energy for life on Earth. If we didn't have sunlight, everything would be dead. I mean, it wouldn't die instantly, but we would literally slowly all become extinct. So less than 1% of the sun's energy that reaches the surface is used by living things. A lot of the time, the 99% is either reflected back into space or it is absorbed within the oceans or land masses. So energy flows through ecosystems in a one-way direction, okay? So it only goes one way. It doesn't go backwards. So as you are seeing arrows, it is one way. So it goes from sun to earth to the plants to then different levels of organisms. And we're going to be talking about those. So the first level of organisms are your producers or your autotrophs. So these are organisms that make their own food. So we're talking about things that use either photosynthesis or chemosynthesis. So photosynthesis uses sunlight to make their own food. So they use, the food that they make is glucose or sugar. Examples are plants, algae, some bacteria, and some protists. But another way to be a producer is through chemosynthesis, which is where you use inorganic chemicals to actually make your food. So this is archaea bacteria that live in volcanoes, things that live in hot springs, archaea bacteria in hot springs, and deep sea vents. So we're actually seeing these things using the chemicals within the water to create their own food rather than sunlight. So here's the difference between photosynthesis versus chemosynthesis. So this first picture on the left-hand side, you're seeing that we need carbon dioxide and water with some sunlight, which is your activator, which allows plants to make oxygen and also their food product, which is sugar. The chemosynthesis, they are using dissolved carbon dioxide within a water source and water itself, and then this one is using hydrogen sulfide from the hydrothermal vent, and that is allowing these mussels to create their own food, which is sugar, and they're also creating sulfur compounds that they release back into the environment. Then you have heterotrophs. So if you're not an autotroph, then you're a heterotroph. So autotrophs are producers, they make their own food. Heterotrophs are consumers, they have to eat in order for them to survive. So these are things that cannot make their own food, so they have to eat to survive, and there are multiple levels or types of heterotrophs. So your first one is a herbivore. It is going to eat mostly plants. They're not really any meat eaters at all, it's just plants. You have carnivores that eat other animals, so they're meat eaters. You have omnivores, which eat both plants and animals. So humans would fall into this category since most of us eat both plants and animals. And then you have the last category, which are decomposers, where these things break down dead organic materials. All right, so in essence, why do we need decomposers? So taking a look at the image on the left-hand side, you're seeing a mouse that has died, and you see dead and rotting plant material. So you have all these decomposers like earthworms and bacteria, nematodes, pill bugs, flies, the larvae of the flies. This actually, being a decomposer, helps prevent dead matter and waste from piling up on the planet. And also it breaks down organic material so that it can go back into the ground. Okay? So which organism shown breaks down dead organisms? Okay, so these would be your decomposers. All right, and then which organisms shown would only eat meat? Those would be your carnivores, only eat meat. So feeding relationships, this is when you have something in a line, a straight line, we call it a food chain. So we're seeing a one-way direction where energy and food is flowing from food to eater. So it's pointing into the direction of what eats it. So this is a series of steps in which organisms transfer energy by eating or being eaten. So you go from producers to consumers, and then your different types of consumers up the food or across the food chain. So here's a quick check-in. Is energy flowing to the frog or snake in the frog-snake relationship? So the energy would be flowing from the frog to the snake. So the snake is getting the energy because it's eating the frog. So all trophic levels are important. If you remove one level of a food chain, you can do harm to others. So if you're removing, say if you remove the snake instead of the grasshopper, you are going to see an increase in grasshoppers and an increase in frogs, because frogs are definitely going to increase because there's no predator to feed on them. All right, but if you remove the grasshopper, you notice that the food chain gets broken down. The frog doesn't have any food, they're going to decrease, and then the snakes will also decrease because their food source is going to go down as well. In a real ecosystem, would snakes only eat frogs? The answer is no, okay? They would have other food sources, but you will see an increase in frogs if the snake goes away. Food webs. These are links that link all the food chains in the ecosystem together. So the check-in is energy flowing to the plant or grasshopper in the plant-grasshopper relationship? So the flow of energy is from the plants to the grasshopper. So the grasshopper is gaining the energy from the plants it eats. Now, what do you think will happen when the snake loses a food source? So if we take the birds out of the snake's diet, it's going to start eating more rabbits and more toads in order to balance their diet out. So you're going to start noticing maybe grasshoppers gaining a little bit of population increase, and also maybe the plants will have some population increase because the bird's not going to be eating the berries. So the berries are going to increase, and then if the snake is eating more rabbits and more toads, then you're going to see an increase in the bottom plants and animals. Okay, food chain versus a food web. So the reason we don't typically draw decomposers in food chains and food webs, because literally everything will decompose eventually. So it would be like just a mess. So as you go up, like across a food chain or into a food web, you're going to start seeing different feeding levels. We call those trophic levels. Where your producers are at the bottom, or trophic level 1 or T1. So all your producers are down here, and as they give energy to the next level, or T2, which are your herbivores and omnivores, you're going to see an energy loss in heat, and only a certain percentage of energy is going to be transferring to the next level and the next level and the next level. So you have T1 producers, T2 are herbivores and omnivores, T3 are omnivores and carnivores, T4 are also omnivores and carnivores. All right, so quick check-in. Why is this a food web and not a food chain? So we're seeing multiple one-way transfers of energy. So we can start with the desert plants and go 3 different directions to small lizards, kangaroo rats, or insects. So this is a food web and not a one-way food chain. Okay, if you broke this up, you would have 3 distinct food chains starting with desert plants. And then what is the best way, number 2, what is the best way to describe the desert fox? Okay, the desert fox up here eats meat, okay? And that meat eats other meat, or that meat eats plants, okay? So we could classify this as a secondary or tertiary consumer, and it's only connected to meat, so it is a meat eater or a carnivore. Number 3, what meal would provide hawks with the most energy? Okay, the most energy. So this is your least number of things to get to the hawks. So if you start here and you go to the insects, that would be 1, 2, 3 transfers of energy. If you go to the small lizards to the hawks, it would be 1, 2, 3. If you go from desert plants through the kangaroo rats to the hawks, it would be 1, 2. So going from desert plants to kangaroo rats gives the hawks the most energy. Okay, it puts the hawk at a lower trophic level, which gives it more energy. And then last question, number 4, what feeding relationships are not shown on this food web? And we're not seeing omnivores, which are plant and meat eaters, and we're not seeing any decomposers. Okay? So let's talk about energy pyramids real quick. So this shows the relative amount of energy available at each trophic level. So your largest amount of energy is going to be with your producers, and then it's going to just start decreasing with the least amount of energy at the top of the pyramid. Okay? So you see the amount of energy decreasing as you move up the pyramid. So we call this the 10% rule. Only about 10% of energy available within one trophic level is transferred to the next one. So about 90% of energy is lost between the levels. So people are going to be like, why is this so inefficient? Like, you lose energy through multiple things. So you lose energy to heat. Energy converted to heat. You lose your energy due to metabolism of whatever plant and animal that is within that trophic level. And then you lose energy in feces, okay, as the plants and animals put out waste products. And then the 10% rule plays a role in determining population size. So you're going to see that producers are probably going to be of the highest population, and then as you go up and decrease energy, then energy available, you're also going to see a decrease in the population. So this is an example of a caterpillar. So not all of the caterpillar's food is converted into potential energy for the predator. So you're seeing a loss in feces, about 100 joules of energy. You're seeing cellular respiration, so that's metabolism, 67 joules. And then you are seeing growth happening as well. Okay, so there's a lot going on within this creature that uses the energy that it does intake. And then, so that means the animals that eat the caterpillars will have to eat more caterpillars in order to suffice their energy needs. So if producers have 9,000 kilocalories of energy, how much energy would you expect to find in herbivores? Okay, so producers would have 9,000, and remember only 10% goes, so all you have to do is move the decimal point over 1 if you are going up 1 level. So every time you go up a level, just move the decimal point over to the left 1. So the herbivores would be your primary consumers, so you're just moving up one level. So from 9,000 it goes to 900. Then if producers have 8,500 kilocalories of energy, how much energy would you expect to find at T4? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 levels. Okay, you're going up 4 levels. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. So this is T1, T2, T3, T4. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. You're only going up 3 levels, sorry. So this would be T5. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 8.5. So pyramid of numbers. So this is just talking about the population size. So as you go up a pyramid, you see the population start to decrease. The lower on the food chain, the closer to a producer, the higher the population size, and the higher on the food chain, closer to tertiary consumers, the lower the population size. So that's what the pyramid of numbers is showing you. Then you have a second pyramid called pyramid of biomass. This shows the total mass of organisms at each trophic level. So again, you're seeing a decrease as you go up the pyramid, where the producers have the largest biomass, and then your top carnivores have the smallest biomass. So the second part of these notes are what are the types of species interactions in an ecosystem. So this would be on page 5 of your notes, I believe. So take a look at this. Birds at a beaver pond. Never seen this amount of mosquitoes. Yep, this is a top food spot for kids. Okay, so they're eating. The ducks are eating the mosquitoes. Okay, and that is what we're talking about. So, competition, where organisms of the same or different species attempt to use a resource at the same place and the same time. So we're talking about water resources, food resources, shelter resources, and sunlight. Okay, so there's always going to be competition. What can happen as a result of competition between different species? So there are 3 things that could happen. One of the species may die out or go extinct due to competitive exclusion, where their competition is so strong that they're unable to get their resources they need to survive. Or one of the species may migrate to a different area where there's less competition. Or species may change their behavior, so they're going to have some sort of character displacement and change and adapt to that competitive environment. So we have predators and then we have prey. So predator is an organism that captures and feeds on another. So your predator is the one that chases after the prey. So your predator in this photo is your lynx, and then your prey is your snow hare, which is a rabbit. And then your lynx is part of the cat family. So predators affect the size of prey populations in a community. If you remove the predator, all right, there's going to be a change in the amount of prey, okay? It causes the prey to increase, all right? This rabbit does not want a hug. It's going to get eaten. It knows that. All right? So there's these relationships between animals, okay? Some are good and some are bad. So the first one is good for both animals that are involved, or both organisms that are involved, which is mutualism. They both benefit from the relationship. Commensalism is one's good and one's bad. So one benefits while the other is neither harmed or helped, so like it's like a neutral type deal. And then parasitism is where one is being harmed, the host is being harmed, while the parasite is the one who benefits. And amensalism is when one is neither helped nor harmed, and then the other one is harmed. Okay, so it's kind of strange where we actually can see this in our regular everyday lives. So let's talk about some examples. So mutualism, where both benefit. So we got bees and flowers, where the flower is being pollinated by the bee, and then the bee is using, getting the pollen and nectar out of the flowers in order to make honey. Ants and acacia tree, so these are the acacia ants. There's a video at the end of your hyperdoc if you want to take a look at this. This is a really cool relationship where both plant and animal benefit from each other. Then you have this commensalism, where one benefits and the other is neither helped nor harmed. You probably have seen this on Shark Week, where you have like little fish that pretty much chase around a shark, and ultimately the fish feed off of the skin of the shark. And then cattle and cattle egrets, the egrets feed off of the insects and stuff from the cattle, but the cattle's not harmed by the egret, and the shark's not harmed by these remora. Now, parasitism is a different story. One is going to benefit, the parasite's going to benefit, while the host is going to be getting harmed. So this first image is a tongue eating isopod and a fish. So this fish is actually getting its tongue eaten by these parasites. Okay, so this is like what it looks like if you cut the fish open, and then here's a swimming fish with that parasite inside of its mouth. So the fish is being harmed by that parasite. Parasitism, hookworm latches to walls of colon. So a hookworm is really disgusting, and it literally can live inside of animals and inside of your colon, which is towards the end of your large intestine. Tapeworms are the longest parasite, and it can lay 1 million eggs per day. So that's number 2. So this is a tapeworm right here. Maybe your dog's had worms, or you've heard of someone having a tapeworm, where they literally lay eggs and they embed in your colon. And these are the eggs embedded in a colon. Number 4 is roundworm, and this is a parasite that can grow 20 inches and lay 200,000 eggs per day. And then number 5, these are little pinworms. And it literally lays eggs around your anus. So of animals, so humans included, if you are in an area with these things. All right, so these are very disturbing images, so I'm warning you. All right, this is transmitted by deer fly bites to humans in Africa. So the first image, all right, is the both eyeballs, but this is a parasite in someone's eye that needs to be removed, and they're taking it out of someone's eye in Africa. Amensalism is where one is neither helped nor harmed, while the other is harmed. Your black walnut tree and neighboring plants are a really good example of this, where the black walnut tree is neither helped nor harmed, but it harms other plants around it. And let's talk about this. So pseudoscorpions, that's what this is. They're tiny relatives of true scorpions, often engaged in the practice of 4C or hitchhiking. Okay, so they hitchhike right here on other things. So this is classified as commensalism. The benefit is the pseudoscorpion is hitching a ride, and the insect is not getting harmed. Termites have bacteria in their guts that help the termites to digest wood. The bacteria get a nice warm gut to live in while the termites use that bacteria in order to eat. So that is a mutualism relationship where termites benefit and the bacteria benefits. All right, so we're going to keep going. You guys are going to move on with the hyperdoc, and if you have any questions, please contact your teacher. Thanks.